So, the Six Thatchers had a pretty negative reception, at least in comparison to earlier Sherlock, and prior to broadcast of the following episode, which almost everyone seemed to like, it was accompanied by a lot of people attempting to pinpoint just what exactly it was that changed the show between the critically acclaimed and generally loved seasons 1 and 2, which got everyone on the Sherlock bandwagon to begin with, and the latter season 3 special and now the start of season 4. And the problem with the less than positively received episodes of Sherlock, like Six Thatchers, is a pretty simple one that can be brought down to one word: mystery. What's with the lack of mystery? And I'm talking about in terms of actual plot here, not in setups and fan baiting, like an actual mystery for Sherlock to solve using his famous powers of deduction. In The Six Thatchers, the show's recent problem is demonstrated in the first 20 minutes through Sherlock getting back after the events of the end of Season 3 with Charles Augustus Magnusson, the events on the plane in The Abominable Bride, and now pretty much all of that has a line drawn under it in the pre-credit sequence, making it all kinda pointless. Yeah, thanks for keeping everyone on the edge of their seats for no reason, guys. And then Sherlock goes back to work solving crimes, and we get about 8 or 9 different crimes that could have made for decent episodes in their own right, presented to us through a series of montages. And now we've got my big question. Why does Sherlock always have to be a series of 3 90-minute episodes? Any number of these crimes that he deals with here could have made for a decent 45-minute episode in its own right. How could a man be in 2 different places at the same time and be murdered in one of them? The circus torso, the canary trainer. You ain't got enough material for a 90-minute episode? Well, fine, that sucks, but you got enough material for, like, something, surely? Surely the story should dictate the form. You know, not the other way round. Is there something wrong with me for thinking that? Do we always have to be a slave to tradition? I mean, yeah, I get what this montage is trying to do, you know, character-wise. The thing is, I watch Sherlock for the crime and mystery solving, and showing me a montage of more interesting stories is just going to make me spend the rest of the episode longing for the potential full 90-minute crime mystery solving episode of Sherlock that got away, while we get too bogged down in the Sherlock universe again and pandering to social media. Sherlock loves ginger nuts. Hashtag ginger nuts. Who needs a mystery when you can have funny, quirky hashtag quotes? He's talking to a baby as though it's a grown-up. Oh, Sherlock, you're so silly. Go on, make a gif out of this social media. Between those bits and the dog montage, I'm starting to think it's partly the internet that's ruined Sherlock, but okay, some light, funny bits like that are all well and good, but isn't this supposed to be a detective show? And what the shit does this have to do with anything? No, please tell me what this has to do with the plot. I really can't remember. Anyway, what was I talking about again? I don't know. Seriously, the incoherency of this episode's rubbing off on me. The Six Thatchers is told almost entirely in tangents. Bits and pieces of different crimes are cut and pasted together into montages. The episode plays out like a dramatisation of Sherlock exchanging a load of drunken anecdotes in a pub somewhere. Which is fine enough. You can't say it's not got any entertainment value at all. It's just messy, sloppy, and incredibly scattershot. This little mystery here of how a body in a car can have been dead for a week, that was really interesting. It could have made for a decent little episode. The resolution was a bit of a long shot, but, you know, it was a nice little mystery. But this thing's just a tangent to this whole thing surrounding the Six Thatchers. It's just not really woven into the thing that the episode's supposed to be about all that well. Right, and so now Mary's pregnant and Sherlock's still banging on about Moriarty, who doesn't fucking matter anymore, and I've totally stopped caring. Come on, Moriarty's dead. I think. Couldn't we have just had an episode where we just have a crime and then solve it? My favourite episode of Sherlock was the first one, Study in Pink, because it was one of few episodes that just had its crime, and the episode was dedicated mostly to solving it. It established John and Sherlock's relationship by giving them something to do together. It served as a prime example of what the show was here to achieve. On the other hand, the Six Thatchers, and by extension most of Season 3 and the special, are more dedicated to our characters' relationships, with passing mentions of other, better and more interesting crimes and stories. This is what I mean when I say that the internet's what's ruined Sherlock. It's essentially become a soap opera. The discussions I saw on the internet about Six Thatchers after broadcast were more focused on John's cheating on Mary and the big twist that happened at the end of the episode than anything else that went on in the runtime. The writers and the people making it are too aware of the audience watching it, and when that happens, you got a big problem. The fourth wall's been broken, and not in a good way. It's not really just a fiction piece anymore. Now it's an interactive storytelling experience. Sorry, that phrase is making me feel physically sick. Hang on a sec. Anyway, so about a third of the way in, the plot concerning the Six Thatchers actually shows up, and there's the odd mention of the possible political angle to it, but not much. Margaret Thatcher was a really divisive figure, and we now live in really divisive times. You could have been doing something to connect this to the current political climate in the real world, couldn't you? But, yeah, who cares about themes and shit, because we've then got a 5-minute sequence of Sherlock fighting a guy in a swimming pool. And we then have the backstory about said guy, which is done via a James Bondish action sequence. I am still watching Sherlock, right? I didn't sit on the remote, did I? And the entire thing gets connected back to all of the dodgy stuff in Mary's past, which... Okay, wasn't the point of that bit in His Last Vow where John destroys the memory stick that Mary's past didn't matter? It's who she is now that matters, and he loves her for who she is now. It was nice, you know, it was a bit soppy, but I guess I am a bit soppy at heart. I liked it, it was probably my favourite bit of Season 3. I'd let go of the past, John had let go, why couldn't the show do that as well and just get on with solving some crimes? Anyway, so, this guy was an assassin who worked with Mary, and he wants her dead, and Mary bolts because she wants to protect her family and travels the world, and we get about 80 trillion more montages. So many montages. Enough with the fucking montages already. 1 or 2 is fine, but if you basically make the entire episode consist of almost nothing but montages, you lose any kind of human connection. It's the same problem I had with the Harry Potter movies. The narrative just sort of skims over the events, and consequently a human connection that the viewer might be attempting to make with the characters by having, like, say, a scene where they interact with each other like human beings for more than 5 minutes gets totally lost. This whole thing with Mary and John having a kid, their marriage starting to break down, John cheating, Mary leaving, and then the twist. You know, that could have made for some decent character drama and got me to actually feel something. But I don't, because it's all done through some quick cuts and montages. Same with the backstory with AJ. I didn't really feel like I got to know him and really get inside his head, because it's all just scattered bits and pieces of his life, like with the first half of the episode. It's a series of anecdotes cut and pasted into a collage of a story. It's just not a very cohesive narrative. And the montage bits of Mary travelling the world ends with Sherlock and John managing to find her, which makes the entire sequence kinda pointless. Don't get me wrong, it was clever, but pointless. I mean, couldn't we have just continued following the Six Thatchers thing instead of this little cul-de-sac, which, again, clever, but it just didn't really do much for the episode as a whole, except for causing more conflict between John and Mary, of which there was already enough anyway. And again, I was glad that we got over when he destroyed the memory stick in His Last Vow. You know what? Maybe I'm missing the point here. Feel free to yell at me for it, comment section. Maybe you feel that all of the drama that this episode saw between John and Mary made the ending more poignant, but going in, I just really wanted a mystery for a change, instead of all this interconnected fanwank drama. And the bits and pieces of detective show that Six Thatchers throws at me feel kinda conciliatory and not really what the episode's interested in. Anyway, I did enjoy the conclusion where it turns out the secretary did it. I mean, I would have enjoyed it more if Vivian had had a bit more screen time earlier in the episode. But, you know, Marsha Warren gives a really good performance. But this scene does further underline the problem that I've been spending the episode having, because the scene then becomes less about the crimes that Vivian's committed, and more about the utterly stupid and overblown bits where Vivian shoots Sherlock and Mary jumps in front of a speeding bullet that's in mid-fucking air to save him. And Mary has a few heartfelt words with John before she dies. Oh yeah, spoiler warning, sorry. I'm going to get on to my thoughts about Mary's death in my review of the next one, because as far as it happening in this one goes, it doesn't really start to mean anything until the next one, which was why I decided to delay my review of Six Thatchers until I knew where the show was going to go with it, because if the Moriarty thing taught me anything, a death is never just a death in Sherlock. Anyway, overall, don't get me wrong in anything I've said in this video. The Six Thatchers is big, dumb, overblown, cartoonish, James Bondish nonsense. Those are all things that I like, but it's just really weird to find them here because they're not really any of the things that I came to Sherlock for in the first place. And that's probably part of why loads of Sherlock fans like me threw our toys out of the pram over Six Thatchers. It's not that it's bad. I mean, the episode didn't vanish up its own arsehole like Abominable Bride did. Just the problem was that it showed extreme levels of disinterest in the things that we came to Sherlock for in the first place. And however good the next episode was, I don't think I was wrong to be disappointed by that.